When I first saw the hotel, it seemed quite ordinary. It was an old building, a little dilapidated, but with a certain charm. I was here on a business trip, and this hotel was the only accommodation available in the small town. After getting a key to a room on the 3rd floor, I checked in. The room was simple, with a bed, a table, and a chair. On the wall hung a painting of an old bridge. After unpacking, I decided to go down to the bar on the 1st floor. It was quiet, with a few people sitting at tables and talking softly. I ordered a coffee and sat at the far table. The bartender, an older man, asked me how long I was here for. I replied that it was for a few days. He nodded and went back to his work. When I got back to my room, I felt tired. I decided to go to bed early. During the night, I woke up to a strange sound. It was a rustling sound, as if someone was moving quietly in the hallway. I listened closely, but the sound stopped. I thought it was just the neighbors and went back to sleep. The next day, I worked all day. In the evening, when I returned to the hotel, I heard strange sounds again. This time they were coming from the neighboring room. The sound was muffled, as if something or someone was banging against the wall. I thought it might be a plumbing problem. But in the night, I woke up again to a rustling sound. The sound was closer, as if someone was passing near the door. In the morning, I approached the bartender and asked who lived in the room next door. He looked at me in surprise and said the room was empty. This made me suspicious. I decided I had to check it out for myself. In the evening, back at the hotel, I went to the neighboring door and knocked quietly. No one answered. I tried the doorknob. It was locked. During the night, he heard the noise again. This time it came from behind the wall. I got out of bed, went to the wall and listened. The sound was distinct. Someone or something was moving around the room. I tried to go back to sleep, but I couldn't. The next day, I went to the receptionist and told her about the sounds. She said it could be an old ventilation system that sometimes makes strange noises. But this explanation did not satisfy me. I decided that I needed to be more careful. In the evening, when the sound started again, I went out into the hallway and waited. The footsteps grew louder and louder, and suddenly I heard a knock on the door of the next room. Someone was obviously trying to get in. I moved closer and knocked again. The door opened, and I saw a dark figure that quickly disappeared inside. My heart beat faster. I entered the room and turned on the light. The room was empty, but there were footprints on the floor leading to the window. The window was ajar. I went back to my room trying to figure out what was going on. During the night, I heard sounds again, louder this time. It sounded like someone was walking on the floor. I grabbed my flashlight and went out into the hallway. The footsteps died down. I looked around and noticed that the door to the attic was ajar. He climbed the ladder and found himself in the attic. It was dark and dusty. I turned on my flashlight and started looking around the room. In the corner, I noticed an old suitcase. When I opened it, I saw old photos and letters. They were all related to the hotel. Apparently, something terrible had happened here at some point. I realized that the sounds could be related to these events. I decided that I needed to find more information. I went back downstairs and started looking for documents about the hotel's past. In the archives, I found a record of a murder that happened here years ago. One of the guests disappeared, and his body was never found. Since then, there were rumors that his spirit roamed the corridors. After gathering all the materials, I realized I couldn't stay here. In the morning, I decided to leave. As I was packing, I heard footsteps again, but this time they were outside the door of my room. The door slowly opened and I saw a shadow. Grabbing my suitcase, I ran out into the hallway and rushed down the stairs. There was no one at the front desk. I quickly walked out of the hotel and headed to my car. As I drove by, I took another look at the building. A shadow flickered in one of the windows on the third floor. He drove away, determined never to return to this city again. Looking back now, I realize that the hotel hid many secrets. But one thing I know for sure: those who go there may encounter something that cannot be explained, and that encounter could change everything. After a few weeks, life gradually returned to normal. I tried to forget about the strange events at the hotel, but thoughts of those nights sometimes returned. One evening, sitting at home and watching the news, I came across an article about the hotel. It said that the building would be closed for remodeling. The article also said that after the renovation, it was planned to reopen to the public. This news got me thinking. Maybe the renovation will help get rid of the strange sounds and mysteries. But what if it didn't? I decided that I didn't want to deal with this place anymore. However, the interest and anxiety never left me. Sometime later, I received a letter. It had no return address. Inside was a picture of an old suitcase I had found in the attic, and a note. "You are closer to the truth than you thought. Come back if you want to know more." That message made me think again of everything that had happened at the hotel. Someone clearly wanted me to come back. After much thought, I decided that I had to go back and find out what was going on. But this time, I was prepared for any surprises. I arrived in town late in the afternoon and headed towards the hotel. The building looked the same as last time. It was quiet all around. As I approached the entrance, I noticed the doors were open. There was no one inside. I went up to the third floor where my room was located. The corridors were empty, and only the faint light of lamps illuminated the way. When I reached the door of the room, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around, but saw no one. He entered the room and headed towards the window from where he had seen the shadow earlier. The window was closed. Suddenly, I heard a low whisper. It came from the next room. I went there again and saw that the door was open. There was a man standing inside. He was in the shadows, but I could feel that he was watching me. The whispering was getting louder and louder. I stepped closer and asked who he was and what he wanted. A man stepped out of the shadows, and I could see his face. It was an older man who worked as a bartender. He said he had been watching the hotel for a long time and knew its secrets. He told me that there had been a murder here many years ago, and strange things had been happening in the hotel ever since. The man confessed that he was the one who had left me the letter and photo to come back and help uncover the truth. We began to discuss a plan of action. We decided that we needed to find more evidence in the attic. We went up there and started looking around. In one corner, we found a secret hatch. When we opened it, we found a ladder leading down. We went down and found ourselves in an old basement. There they found another suitcase full of old documents and photographs. After studying them, they realized that the murder had been carefully planned and the perpetrators had tried to cover up all traces. But why didn't the spirit rest? The man suggested that we hadn't found the key piece of evidence yet. As we searched, we heard footsteps again. This time they were right above us. Someone knew we were here. The footsteps got closer and closer, and we realized we had to act fast. We gathered all the documents and started to climb back up. But just as we opened the hatch, a figure appeared in front of us. It was a man I had seen for the first time. He took a step forward, and I saw his face express anger. He began to speak, accusing us of interfering. He had a knife in his hand. My heart beat faster. We realized that we had to save ourselves. The man working as a bartender tried to calm him down, but the figure moved forward. I grabbed the nearest board and swung. The blow hit the attacker's hand, and the knife fell out. We seized the moment and ran out of the basement. We made it to the exit and ran outside. It was dark all around, but we kept running without stopping. Once at a safe distance, we stopped and took a breath. Realized we had a clue that would help solve the mystery of the hotel. The bartender said he knew where to go with this material. We agreed to meet in the morning and get the paperwork to the right people. The next day, we turned the material over to the local historical society, which promised to investigate. I left town knowing I would never go back there again. But the feeling that I had helped solve a long-standing mystery stayed with me. A few years passed, and life returned to normal. But sometimes, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I still hear those footsteps and realize that the mysteries of the past can haunt us wherever we go.